Jen and Sam here. I really went back and forth about doing this video. I go back and forth about doing any videos, considering the state of things around me. Regardless of what's happening, apparently I've made some people angry, so should I keep putting myself out there for more ridicule? But I guess I would hope that in some way this is the material and the content that we research or look into or share is helpful to somebody, even if the only ones who are hearing this are people that know me and watch, so they can have something to ridicule me about, which hopefully isn't the case, but you never know. So I went back and forth about doing this video at all. This is one of those truths that is evident. I think it's like an elephant in the room, but not a lot of people talk about. And since so much is being revealed, it seems like it's... Let me quit beating around the bush. It would be relevant, a relevant topic for us to cover in this time that we're in and in life in general, especially with how divided and how obviously binary our system is, or bipolar, whatever way you want to describe it. And I feel like I always have to start these videos out with disclaimers saying what I'm not doing or who I'm not judging, but I'm not a doctor, so none of this is medical advice in any way, shape, or form. This is us doing research, looking into things. You have to make your own decisions. I cannot do that for you. This is not legal advice. I'm not a lawyer for such advice. Go seek your chosen professionals. If I do share something, it is what has worked for me. It is my personal story. Autobiographically speaking. I cannot tell anyone else what to do. I'm also not judging anyone else. People, human beings, we see things. One of our senses is sight. And so when we meet a person, we instantaneously make judgments that we're usually unaware of. Personally, I think it would benefit all of us, and I have been working on my own judgments of other people when I see them or meet them or talk to them or think about them or pray for them. Enemies, friends, foes, strangers, all of it. These are things that can only bring healing if we, have an open dialogue about them. And so, I don't mind starting that dialogue. I'm just not always the best at being eloquent about that, but I will find my groove. I didn't make an announcement about this video because, again, it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. Not everyone is going to like it. And people aren't going to like it because it's going to ring true. I don't like it. It's my flesh doesn't like this topic. But again, it's very relevant for us as living beings. And again, this is not a lecture. I'm not judging anyone. This is something that's kind of been worming around in the back of my thoughts for a long time, obviously. You'll know when I get there. And so one of two things, or maybe more, a combination of things is happening. Either things are being revealed to me to like gaslight me and make me feel or look crazy, or they are being shown to me so that I share them. High, very high, but not the most high. No, I'm definitely not the most high. High strangeness is not my personal name, obviously. It's the phenomenon, the name for the phenomenon that we all see around us. Another phrase that was coined on my main channel, which seemed to have exploded, which is really cool. Mr. Dixon can tell people about that. But anyways, welcome. Now, where was I? Oh, so either things are being revealed to me to share them, or to make me feel crazy, or because they are true. And that's the thing, certain things are shared and they're not going to be believed anyway. And that's why I am going to share some of this, because I debated with my inner self for a long time about a lot of this. And I have felt right from the beginning that God is allowing these things to be shown to me to share them with others, and that somebody can benefit in some way. So either there are people messing with me, making me want to believe. And I said this in a video a long time ago when this all began in 2018, 2019, that human spirits had kind of played musical chairs, that not everybody was in the right vessel any longer. And I didn't know what else to call it. I thought a spiritual rapture had occurred. And then more recently, I started noticing, wait, that person is behaving more like this person, kind of like you see in the movie Freaky Friday. And I started thinking about reincarnation and how much that is hinted at in ancient scripture, but nobody actually knows what it means. And I don't think people understand it's not something that's done at birth. It's not, we think of birth like a baby. We think of that as beginning, and we think of death as end, and that's not how it is. And certain things have been revealed to me, I believe, to share them with you. Now, I'm just going to keep going because I probably won't do that in the replay. So, I believe certain things were shown to me so that I can share them with you. And I started noticing that it was almost like Freaky Friday, like people had traded places, like spirits were in the wrong bodies. And again, they're enjoying doing this to me. They know what they're doing. They know they're revealing this to me. This is funny to them, or I don't know what they think it is. So either this has actually happened, it can happen, or something other has taken up the vessels of people and associates that I know. And I mean, I'm a woman, I'm a mother. These are people that I have known their whole lives, have lived with. I know their habits, I knew their eating habits, all these things. Most women, most mothers will understand this. And this is why we are labeled hysterical. This is why there is a patriarchy. This is why they burned women and not men. It is because we have these instincts that key in on these things. But because of this, we're also sometimes easier manipulated because, let's just call them lower level entities, like to play with our emotions. And so having control of your emotions is very important. What am I getting at? When I started thinking about the people that I knew, and like one person in particular would not eat animals. And they said they had grown up on a farm, and of all the people, I'm like, wow, a farmer, you would think that person would eat meat. And so I started rethinking like pretty much my whole upbringing, and I would go on stints where I would not partake. As being raised a Catholic, we did that anyway, but never for long. And I had an incident when I was a child where my dad, it was the only time my dad ever got mad at me, and it was when I refused to eat meat. And he was visibly angry, and we hadn't moved into like our own place yet. We were still in like this condo he and my mom had shared, and he left me alone at the table and said to eat that, and he left, it was just a candle lit, it was nighttime, and I'm like, I was so mad, I lit the candle, or lit my napkin on fire, because I did not want to eat this meat. I did not want to eat this animal, because I was starting to come up to an age where I knew what this was. And again, I'm not judging anybody. So when I get into this topic, please understand I am examining something here that I think is a trend in ancient texts and ancient literatures. And I think You guys know how I feel about some of the Old Testament, that I don't believe it is all the voice of the one true creator, God of life. There are other Christians that feel that way. And so because of that, I really started paying attention to what is not said in all these ancient texts. You guys know I got the book, The Ecclesiastical History, which just means church history. And ecclesiastical means church. Back then, there was only one church. It was the Catholic Church. People hate this, but it's true. James the Just was Christ's brother, and he also did not eat of the flesh of animals. Take that as you will. Again, I'm not judging you. This is a search for truth, and that's what this is about. And you guys know that I've played with my own eating habits and seeing how it affects my body and my spirit, and I can attest that higher salt levels and more red meat and certain pork would make me literally weepy. I would get weepy. I would cry and get upset. Sometimes I would get full of sensuality, and I'm using another word there for obvious reasons. I'm trying to be a more modest person. I'm still cussing, which I really need to stop, but I am a work in progress like everybody, so I do ask for people's forgiveness and patience with me, because none are innocent here. And I'm speaking to my enemies who might be watching at this time. The ones who are close and in the same area I'm in. So again, this is not me passing judgment. This is me being a scientist to the best of my ability, because I'm not an engineer. I'm not a scientist. I'm not nearly that intelligent. So I have to use the tools at my disposal. And I'm good at games and I'm good at puzzles. And I started noticing trends when I was looking at the Bible and that Old Testament God. And then I came to the story of Cain and Abel. Why would God turn away vegetables and fruits? And then why would a seemingly peaceful hippie who delivered vegetables and fruits kill his brother? Where would that sense of murder come from? And then I had to rely upon, well, Christ told us that some of the scribes were liars. And who were scribes of the day? They weren't just authors, right? You have to understand they were censors, they were editors. They weren't the original authors even. They were translators, interpreters of the scripture. They were gatekeepers for God, is what scribes were. And I'm going to do a short on that. Bookmark, what time is it? 13:26. If somebody wants to bookmark that for me, because I want to do a short on that. Scribes were gatekeepers for God, and Christ knew this. And then if Abraham was talking to the real true creator God as he was leading Isaac, his son, because he was willing to do anything for God. God wanted him to sacrifice his son. He said, all right. And the angel of the Lord, who some believe was Christ before he became incarnate, before he became flesh, stopped him. But if Abraham was already talking to the one true creator God, why didn't the one true creator God stop him? Why did the angel of the Lord have to stop him? And so we see this tug of war happening throughout. And this is not just in the Bible. Like, we know this light and dark, the Joker, the Batman, up and down, happy, sad, yin and yang. We know this is how things are. And I do have a certain appreciation for that. I don't want to be disrespectful to the creator who placed all these laws of physics in place and whatnot. Death, we could all do without. I think it leads to nothing but problems. I hope that we're all learning our lesson as far as punishment goes. But maybe it's just me, and maybe I am that slow a learner, and maybe y'all are waiting on me to be the last one. I really hope that's not the case, because if it is, I'll feel really bad for keeping y'all here after class and all. So anyway, I started looking, really looking at what was missing from a lot of stories that we hear, and I started seeing it everywhere. Cain and Abel were making 2 offerings to 2 different gods. And then I started looking at, hey, and then I started looking at, I'm getting there, I'm sorry. And then I started looking at, not just Cain and Abel, not all of them apparently, sorry. I'm going to continue though, because this intro's gone on like way too long, I'm sorry. Then I look at Cain and Abel. I don't know what's going on out there, somebody's being loud. Up all night long, and then early in the morning. Just stop slamming things, please. Things have been so hard for the last few years for so many of us. So I do this research so that maybe some of you don't have to. Okay, I'm gonna just turn comments off if that person doesn't want to, because it's just really... Anyways, I started looking at the story of Cain and Abel, and I know I lost people there, and like at this point I might just stop the video, because I feel like it's pointless when nobody's paying attention. Nobody wants to talk about eating habits, but that's when I started looking at the Bible, and from the very beginning... What story did I want to go over? Oh. Let's look at sin real quick. What is sin? The first ever sin, we are told, is what? How is that accomplished? It is accomplished through doing what? The act of what? Eve is eating. She eats. Therefore, eat equals sin. Is it all eating? And what does eat mean? Well, eat also means that you consume a thing. So it's not just what you physically eat in your body and your physical vessel. It is what you consume in your eye gates, consume with your ears, your ear gates, what you listen to, what you see, what you view, right? What you read. So eat itself is a very full definition, has a very full definition, right? We know this. So if the first sin is directly related to eating, we know 2 things. That one, what we do with our body directly affects our spirit. We know that from day one. Body and spirit are together. They are together. Now, a lot of religions, even my religion, will tell you that that's not true, that the soul gets torn from the body, that all this stuff happens. All I know is that a lot of us have had near-death experiences and we're still here. A lot of us have seen our relatives still walking around. I don't know if we're in a new time, a new age, or if this is something that happens every now and again. But we're taking all of these clues, this high strangeness of the last several years, we're picking them up and we're seeing what pieces go together. My personal trek, my personal journey, a lot of it has been me experimenting with what I watch, what I read, what I listen to, and what I consume spiritually and physically, what I take into my vessel, my temple, right? Thank you for still being here if you're still here. I'm sorry, but that hello was really irritating. But that person is gone, so cool. All right, so I hit on something the other day, and it said that we got the habit of eating animals from the Nephilim. Now here again, I'm just researching because we don't know who is who at this point. We don't know if there's legit hybrids walking around. I don't know if I'm one. I don't know if you're one. I'm not judging. You're not judging. We're not doing that. We are trying on this channel to be as unbiased as possible in that regard, but to move forward knowing from this moment on that we're accountable for our own selves, that we seek to do no harm going forward, if possible. If harm comes from truth, then we're to deliver that truth as gently as possible. So I'm not saying, it's not my place to condemn any being, and I'm not going to be the one to do that. I'm not a doctor of the church. I'm not a professional theologian. I don't have to choose a side if I don't want to. I really don't. That's for God, and that's between the being and its maker. I'm here trying to figure out how to walk this out as righteously as possible, if that can be done, if I can even stand at all, or if I have to kind of just toddle along and hope I make it through. And you guys are here with me, and that's pretty awesome. We can do it together, or we don't have to, whoever wants to hang out can. So I was looking into, I wanted to know if the Nephilim were vegetarians, because again, I think we've been lied to about a lot. You're going to see me go back and forth on a couple of topics, and that's why this is just the intro, because those who don't want to expose themselves to this in the future don't have to, right? And a lot of the diet talk is going to be striving to be a saint. It's going to be on the new channel. But some of this relates to the teeth, and it relates to reincarnation. It relates to ascension and transfiguration and quantum mechanics. If you want your vessel to be on as high a frequency as possible, and you don't want lower energies to be able to reach you. For example, if you want to be able to manifest the best reality around you possible without interfering in anyone else's free will, you need to vibrate at as high a frequency as possible. Don't ye know ye are gods? We are our own little g gods. Our Creator gave that to us. We have choice. We can choose how high or low we want to go, which route we want to take, left or right, up or down, good or bad. And I'm still trying to figure out, do we tame that dark wolf within? Do we try to cut it out like a cancer? So far, I'm working on starving mine, little by little, and it works for me. I can't say that's going to work for everybody else. And again, I'm speaking spirit. This is metaphorical, parabolic language that I'm using. This is not saying to literally go out and starve yourself. I fast. That works for me. I'm not telling you what to do. All right? So, I wanted to know, one of the people around me that I literally see in someone else who's younger now, looks just like her, talks like her, walks like her, same type of muscle tone, everything the same. And I haven't seen the older version in a few years, and it's like I've been kept from people. I've not been allowed to go around people. So yeah, she did not eat animals, and from all what I could see, she was a very decent human being, very kind, very generous, good mom, good wife. She just seemed like she had it together. She was just a decent person. I don't have a bad thing to say about this person. She liked cats. I prefer dogs, but I've had cats and I like cats. So you guys know how I am about that. It's just kind of like a thing, just like Steelers and Browns. I just think it's a funny, friendly rivalry type thing. But anyways, I started wondering, like, how is this accomplished? And then I started remembering, well, we looked at this. Shoot, I'm going to have to go back, aren't I? Sammy's snoring, I'm sorry. Then I was doing this Google search for eating habits of the ancient Egyptians, because we know that they said they called their pharaohs gods. And in Christian theology, we are told that that's demon worship, that that's an abomination. Okay, I'm not saying that this is a good thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm on a search just like you for truth. And I think we've been lied to and bamboozled about a whole lot of stuff. And so I'm trying to use the information that's out there to come to as reasonable and logical a conclusion, and what resonates most with my spiritual bell within, what rings true with me within, you know, and then that's the way I'll walk. There are different verses in scripture that refer to eating. We are told. There's one in particular that I don't think has anything to do with food. Other people will tell you it does. I'm not a teacher. I'm not a biblical teacher. I'm not a biblical scholar, but I do know how to read context. And the one where Christ says it's what comes out of your mouth that defiles you, he was talking to that specific person about the apostles sitting down and eating without washing their hands. It was about hand washing, and it was about dirt. That conversation was not about food. And I'm just being real. I'm just getting that out there. Little things like that have been tweaked. And people like me, as a child, were forced to eat animals when we knew inherently that it did not feel right and it felt wrong. And then I turned around and I did it to my son because I was told that he was going to be weak and small if he did not. Do you see how this goes on and on? We do what we think is best at the time, oftentimes because that's what we are taught. I don't want to just continue living that way anymore. I want to do what's right because it's right, and because I know it's right within, and not because somebody else has told me it's right. I hope that makes sense. And again, I know this might be a little too deep for some people at this channel, and that's okay. We're not all on the same journey, and that's fine. We're not supposed to be on the same journey. If you at least understand the vocabulary and the verbiage I'm using, please consider giving the video itself a thumbs up. Okay, and so then I thought, gosh, there's so much to talk about here. I gotta show you this too, just because my mom made me watch this every Mother's Day. And I couldn't figure out why. She said it was so I would know how good I had it. And there's this scene in this movie. It's called Mommy Dearest. Joan Crawford plays in it. It's about Joan Crawford and the children that she adopts, okay? And there's a scene in it where, oh, come on, it's got to be here. It's like the scene where she tells the daughter does not want to eat a rare steak. The daughter doesn't want to eat steak, and the steak is rare. It's like bleeding on the plate. And there we go. It's called the steak scene. It's literally like bleeding all over the plate. And she tells her, no, I don't want to eat that. And she tells her, you will eat it. And she's like, I'm not eating it. And she's like, okay, fine. You will eat it in the morning. So she takes it back out of the fridge and puts it in front of her for her breakfast. She doesn't eat it again. She sends her to school and she tries to give it to her again, but the housekeeper won't let her. And really, they're showing us these things for a reason. And again, we're living side by side. This is why people are so conflicted. And they tell you it's the same book, and they tell you it's the same God in there. And I honestly don't think that it is. Christ's Father in heaven is not the same one asking for burnt offerings. Like, I just don't. And again, I know that people are going to disagree with me. I know I will lose subscribers. I know that, I know that, like, and this is where I'm at with it right now. Like, and maybe something will be revealed tomorrow and I won't feel that way. But right now, that's how I feel about it. And I've laid out pretty decent logical reasons as to why I feel that way. And I know people like their steaks and chicken nuggets. And I'm not judging you. Again, I'll say. I will also say, personally, when I partake in a fast, especially around Lent, when I give up certain things to eat, or when I give it up altogether for a few days, the fogginess, call it fluoride haze, whatever you want to call it, it leaves, it goes away. And you see things really clearly. And that's kind of where Dark Night of the Soul kicks in, because you're like, oh my God. And I mean that in the purest sense of the phrase. I am filthy. Like that scene in Twin Peaks when the girl looks at herself and she's like, oh God, I can't even come before you. I'm about to die and I'm filthy. And instead of running away, she's praying. That's like one of the scenes a few years ago when I started coming back to God. Like, that shook me. And I don't know. I think we've been told a whole lot of stuff that's not true. So let's look at a few things. There's a lot of things. There's a case to be made, and this isn't just a Christian thing. We're going to look at Sumerians, Egyptians, Christians, Buddhists, Seventh-day Adventists. All of them have at least a sect, S-E-C-T, of their faith system that is devoted to doing no harm to the animal. Some people just don't understand this concept. They don't grasp what's being said. There are things in the Bible, okay, for example, in the Old Testament, there are allowances being made for slavery. That's only because God knew we were going to do it. He knew man had flaws. He knew what our flaws were. And he says, if you feel like you must get a divorce, do not divorce, but live separately from your spouse. And do not fornicate with anyone else. Just live apart. That there are concessions that God makes, that he permits and allows in the Old Testament. The whole point is we were supposed to grow out of that. The New Testament is supposed to be a testament of that spiritual evolution. Christ saying, this is what you can achieve. This is me coming down to your level, suffering alongside you, showing you that death can be overcome. Now you do it. Just like you do when you're a parent and you ride a bike for your kid, or you throw a ball or you hit a ball, and you say, now you do it, kid. Now you do it, son. And you know that they might be scared, and it might cause them some tribulation, but you know they're going to come through it the other side okay, and oftentimes with better character than they went in. So the Clementine Homilies, I have a book. I'm gathering a lot of books, and that's going to be an evening project or a project for the other channel, because again, that is some of this information is not for everyone. Not everybody is ready. Some people want to say, okay, I'm a sinner, but that's okay. That's why God made Christ, and I can continue sinning and I can continue living that way. Some people think that Christ is the get out of jail free card. I don't personally want to walk that way. There are greats like Gandhi and Buddha, to show us that a righteous life can be attained. And spiritual rewards come of that, and great things can happen to a person's community when a human being like that impacts that village or community or nation or what have you. And so as the world spins ever faster into chaos on the ball that it's on, and ball has a lot to do with this topic as well. BAAL. Everybody hears a ball worshiper because they think we're on a ball, right? Guess who the Lord of the Flies is, guys? That's Baal. Where do flies come from? Maggots. Do you remember the scene in Poltergeist with the steak and the maggots? Come on now. How many more examples do we need to see? So I might just end that intro there and let people decide whether or not they want to dip their toes into this topic, because it gets really deep. For example, I found this paper that someone wrote, and I was reminded of this, but he lays it out here. And again, sometimes we're too smart for our own britches. Some of these scientists now, like people are just talking word salad, and people like me are poking holes in it left and right. Like, they're getting too smart. I don't know. It reminds me of the verse, the wisest man is a fool in God's eyes. So this is the abstract of this paper. Why in Genesis 43:32, 46:34, and Exodus 8:22 does it say that Hebrews are an abomination to Egyptians? Now hold, please. Keep in the back of your mind the newest code out there, the Hebrew Israelites. Keep in the back of your mind all the people wanting to go back to the Old Testament. Why do they want to go back there so badly? Why do they want to go? Isn't that kind of disrespectful? If you say Christ is the Savior, why are you going back? And I know Rob was real big for bringing this movement around. And again, I came back around to Christ and to God by reading these people's information. But let me tell you, if you're still celebrating those feasts, it's an affront to Christ. What did he die for? He is the last sacrifice. He is the lamb. There need be no more after him. That's it. That's it. And people don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that. They want to go back to those old laws, and especially a lot of men do. Because, and again, this is reverse psychology. They know that if they push the society to a depraved state of mind, a lot of us are going to go back to traditional ways of thinking, which is good for certain types of society that you want to create a submissive people in, okay? But it's not going to be leave it to beaver type of old-fashioned. It's going to be, oh, you cheated on your spouse? Well, we're going to lock you in the clink for the rest of your life, if not kill you. Oh, you stole an apple? We're going to cut your hand off. This is where extremes can lead us. And again, so I'm not saying like extreme diets. This has nothing to do with that. This has to do with taking a hard look at books. Like, we're not, and that's offensive to me too now. People aren't big enough to read a book for themselves. You say you believe in it. You go to church. Most of the people I'm starting to, like, they just go there to think that they are better. Read the book. If you say you believe in it, just read it. Because I'm finding a lot of stuff in there like this. Genesis 43:32 tells that Joseph, now remember, Joseph, the one who was pretty much human trafficked by his brothers into slavery into Egypt, who went into Egypt but made a name for himself, right? He became somebody. Despite what everyone did to him, he made a name for himself. God was with him, even in Egypt, which we're told is Babylon. We're told Egypt is the worst of the worst, right? Isn't that what Christians are told? Genesis 43:32 tells that Joseph hosted his brothers as well as some Egyptian officials for dinner. The seating arrangements were, however, unusual. Pay attention here. They served him, and you're going to find that you have to be kind of intelligent, or you at least have to appreciate education if you're going to be on this channel, because that's what we do. We read a lot. The seating arrangements were, however, unusual. They served him by himself. Okay, so they served Joseph by himself, and then by themselves. Okay, and the Egyptians who ate with him by themselves. Huh. Almost as if they're serving 3 different meals, right? They're all at the same table, though, because he's hosting them all. What's going on? The biblical narrator finds it necessary to supply an explanation for this curious situation, saying, "For the Egyptians could not dine with the Hebrews, since that would be an abomination." And that's strong language to the Egyptians. Why could the Egyptians not dine with the Hebrews? Huh. Isn't that weird? I would posit it's because the Egyptians were vegetarians and the Hebrews were still eating meat that was slaughtered to false idols. That's why Christ went off in the temple. They'll tell you it's because of money. And yeah, that was the side issue. But the real issue was because they were slaughtering animals in the temple of God. And because they were slaughtering animals, period. I know I'm going to lose people because of this, and it's fine. I still have issues with this. I'm still trying to reconcile a lot of what I'm finding, but you see it here. Why is that verse in there then? If the Egyptians were the evil ones, as Christians so often say, and again, I was raised Christian, I was raised Catholic, okay? And I'm finding a lot of ancient saints, a lot of Christian saints, a lot of Gnostics, a lot of Essenes, a lot of Nazarenes, all of these people pre-Christianity, because Christ wasn't a Christian, right? Because he was Christ. He didn't worship, he wasn't into self-worship. That's idolatry. Christ did not idol worship, okay? I'm not going to get into the verses right now. I'm not going to debate his divinity or any of that. He is the Son of God. I'm not going to argue that. But we are in different times than we were ever in before, except the time of Noah. And I want to show you that I'm not the only one who thinks like this. And this is a really neat Mandela tie-in for people who say that this hasn't always been in the book, because it's been there. Or maybe it wasn't, and maybe somebody, again, is trying to get a message through to us. This is the Church Without Walls. I really like that name. Genesis 6:2 says, "The sons of God took as wives the daughters of men." Now, we're not going to read this whole thing. I just want to read what they got to say right here. Immediately in verse 3, God says, "My spirit will not always umpire in the ways of men, because he is just flesh. Yet his days will be 120 years. Up until this point, God himself acted as umpire directly with capital crimes, meaning he dealt out the punishment himself. We see this by his involvement with Cain and with Lamech, who also killed a man. After Noah got out of the ark, the Lord delegated 3 things to man as his responsibility from that point on: crime, punishment, and diet, allowing them to eat meat for the first time, and reproduction, meaning that it was up to them at this point. I'm not going to inquire onto, there's a lot of little nuggets that nobody's ever taught us about. Like, what does that mean, right? Didn't we always reproduce? I don't know. Genesis 9, 1 through 7, Genesis 1, 29 through 30 states man and animals were vegetarians originally, and to that we will return. As in, the wolf laying down with the lamb, the lion eating straw like an ox, etc., etc. That's the one thing. Do you remember that? And again, I'll always take it back to the riddles in school. They've been training us for stuff like this to pick up on this for years and years and years. It was the riddle, like if you had to go, you had one canoe and you had 3 animals. You had like a snake and a wolf and a chicken. And you had to get all 3 across in only 2 trips. Like, how would you do that without one of them eating the other one? And I always thought when I hear that verse, like, oh wow, the wolf's not eating the lamb. Like, that's strange, like it's not attacking it. And it's very clear in Genesis that we're not supposed to be eating our fellow animals. And by fellow animals, I don't mean we are animals. I just mean fellow inhabitants of, of the plane, of the realm. Again, I'm not judging you because I have strong issue with this. I was raised Italian. There are certain things we just are raised doing and partaking of. And it's been a real struggle for me, especially considering how much God has changed my life already in the last few years. I am nowhere near perfect, but I'm not near as bad as I was, and praise God. So it for me to change at all has been a lot. So please don't ever, I'm not judging anybody. I'm saying all of these things need to be looked at a lot deeper. And we're going to start looking at all of these things a lot deeper. Egyptians. No. And so, going back to Noah real quick, though, we're told that because of the evil that was worked upon the earth, and because the birds were sinned against, and the fish were sinned against, and man was sinned against, and if sin is equal to eat, and just go with me for a minute, if sin is equal to eat, then the next step with that would be that, yes, then we had some cannibalistic tendencies taking place as well. And we're told that took place within the Nephilim. It's another reason I'm very, they don't tell you what you're buying at the store. Beef says beef. It says beef. Doesn't say cow. It says beef. I don't know. I don't trust this world enough to, I try to take better charge of what I'm putting in my vessel these days. And I pray that you are able to, and that you are as well. If there's any way I can help out, if I can pray for you, if I can send you words of encouragement via email, recipes, anything like that, let me know. I'm subsisting greatly on beans, spinach leaves, cheese. I still do dairy. I still do milk. I like milk. And I love cows. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with cows. I don't want to hear about the CO2 and all, like, this pseudoscience taking over. And I think the biggest problem is too many people are listening to the television and not doing actual, like, they're not getting a real education. If that can even be done now. Look how much research we have to do into stuff. Because look, you'll see right here, 2014, it will tell you that yes, they're seeing that the Egyptians were mostly vegetarian, because I started asking myself, these people who respected animals so much that in all their drawings you see them honoring like the crow, and they had the head of the crow. They were a lot like Native American Indians, right? The head of the crow, the feathers everywhere. You see the Mayans did the same thing. A lot of these people honored animals. So if they're honoring animals, wouldn't it stand to reason then that they're not eating them? And you can tell what a person is eating, what their diet is, by their bone marrow. And so archaeologists can go in and they can figure this out, right? However, this is where you get into the internet. You can find anything to support your own opinion, because you have a lot here saying that they were, and then you have just as much saying that they weren't. So, oh, wait, ancient. Sorry about that. So the isotope ratios in the hair, okay, and also stuff in their bone marrow, and it shows you their diet was mostly built around wheat and barley, okay? And again, a lot of these hieroglyphics, there's a lot of bad teachers on YouTube. All someone has to do is go take a peek at them themselves or read a book. Just read a book. Again, speaking of, I'm reading, which one is it now? The Essay and Gospel of Peace, and there, I'm going to do a short on this too. What time is it? 51:44. I'm going to do a short on this as well. There's a section in there, like a short paragraph, where it talks about how the mountains are the Titans laying down in their rest, and it pretty much proves mud flood and mud fossil. So I thought that was really cool. So I'm going to take a picture of that for you guys, highlight it, highlight the book, and post that. I think people will like that. We'll get a kick out of it. And so here again, you can find information bolstering both sides, but the older one I kind of trust a little more. Now it says here, regular consumption of beef is observed in the higher social classes, but I want to posit to you again, I don't think certain things can be done, can be achieved in their spiritual practice of the type of reincarnation they're doing. Their karma has to be good. You have to be a decent person. Your scales have to weigh properly. And I know people are going to say, well, aren't you a Christian? Why are you I'm not pushing it. I'm saying I believe there's probably more than one possible truth to what's happening here. And I think a lot of cultures, and I think that's where we've gotten messed up. The cultures might vary in the way they explain things, but our faith systems are all very, very similar, unless you're straight up into hedonistic human sacrifice, throwing people into the volcano type stuff like that. Then, that's its own branch of bipolarness. I'm just saying, I'm not down with any of that. I do not promote violence. I'm a pacifist. And again, you have Christians thinking they're Christians and they own guns. Well, I got to protect my family. Yeah, but that's not how Christ would have done it. It's just not. It's not how. And maybe in your younger, like, spiritual walk, when you're still naive about things, yeah, when you're still in fear, yeah, maybe. But as you progress and as you start to walk a certain way, you don't want to need that. And even if you ever were in a position to need that, you definitely then don't want it around because you don't want to have to use it. I don't know if that makes sense to most people today. I know that the further down the road that we get, the more distant I become with people, because I'm having a hard time finding anyone that still reads books or has a spiritual conversation, has a serious conversation about nutrition, like serious conversation. All people really want is like viral videos and TikTok, and I don't know. That's just not me anymore. Maybe it was for a little bit, but it's not who I am now. And I still want to be able to do this, and I still want to connect with people, but I just wonder, is there anyone out there anymore? Is there anyone out there who cares anymore? Has everyone just gone complacent and given up? Please don't give up. Within your own self, you are worthwhile. You have worth. And it's not because of what you do or because of what you can offer your community or society. Yeah, those are good things. That helps, and that sure helps you to make friends in hard times. But Jesus wasn't like that. You don't help somebody because of what they're worth. You don't want somebody around because of what they can do for you. Everyone is essential because we're all made in the image of God, because we're all brothers and sisters, because none of these other things should matter, but they do, I guess. And this is some type of cosmic dance we go through, where we bob and weave, and we gotta navigate these choppy waters as carefully as possible. I know for myself and my family and my children and my friends and the community that I made my home, I would like to see people in a time of harmony and prosperity and soft-heartedness. No more of the, people have just gotten so hard. And I can honestly tell you that a cleaner diet for me has helped a lot in regards to my mood and staying well balanced and in control of my emotions and not popping off at people, just being an overall decent human. Some of us we're that far lost that we just really have to ratchet it back. Maybe not everybody's that way, and that's fine. But yeah, I'm going to end this video. Yes, it was a mishmash. Now, here's why I did this. Because this gets really complicated and complex. When you get into the topic of transfiguration and transmutation and ascension, in the mystery schools and in the Gnostic belief and even Christian mysticism and Catholic mysticism, and in, I don't want to say is it Sufism? Some types of Buddhism. There is the knowledge that regular everyday Joes like you and me, Joes and Janes like you and me, can achieve ascension. We can ascend in spirit on a higher plane of existence. That is my end goal. It might sound stupid to some people. I think we all need goals, and that's one of my goals. And so I want to know how to do that. And I want to be as much like Christ as possible. And this is my search for spirituality. Now, we might read here and we might go through the knowledge part, but turning it into wisdom and applying it, that's going to depend on how much of an investment we make in ourselves. How much are you willing to invest in yourself? How worthy do you think you are? And how much do you want this to rub off on your direct environment and the people around you? It would be amazing to see people live in this type of harmony again, working the land together and being okay with that and knowing that that's how we sustain ourselves. And, it's not for everybody, but, I don't know. I just think the more complicated and dark the world gets, the more simplistic that I want to try and make my life. And in order to do that, though, we have to trudge through these historical documents to kind of see how did the greats do it, right? Because I'm not great. How did these people do it? How did they walk this out? And how did they refine themselves to the point of being almost deified, right? Their name is still lasting throughout history. And I'm not saying that should be your or my goal or approximation of ourselves. I'm saying just that experience itself, just to have that harmony within our heart, mind, soul, and body, so that we can get out of this current school for souls. And I know a lot of people disagree now. I can't get in and go get down with the dark stuff. I mean, people want to go there, they want to go that route, that's fine. I know the stuff is out there. We talk about it when it's relevant. We're gonna, ironically enough, there's a very dark side to the diet talk, and that is Baal. Baal. So real quick, let's give you a peek, because I know you're going to ask. The name given to several different deities who are designated as false gods or idols. However, it is the most often used to describe the specific Canaanite Phoenician god of fertility and rain. Which is funny, because I'm always asking for rain, and I always get it. What does that mean? Which is weird. Okay, so let's look at this for a second. Baal is holding a child right there, right? Additionally, Baal is associated with Beelzebub, demons, and the devil. So which is it? Is he a god of fertility, or is he a demon? And again, this is where we have to be careful too, because angels and demons operate in the same way. And they're kind of, what's the word I'm looking, indiscriminatory, right? They just have different natures. And this is why we're told don't worship either of them. Don't worship demons. Don't worship angels. Don't worship them. We're to go to God, the creator of all that stuff, and ask him. Then he can designate, hey, Jen, you want rain? I'll tell Baal to go give you rain. If that's actually how the hierarchy works. I don't know. I'm just saying. But, yeah, he's also allegedly Baalam, Baalam. I think they are the same being. And the bull, yes, because that's really big right now. So Baal makes sense, of course. And now there is some belief that he is also Jehovah. Now again, and this is from BYU. Oh, okay. BYU is Brigham Young. And who's Brigham Young? Brigham Young University is a Mormon-only school. I would actually attend there, but I don't think they'd let me. Who controls the water? Yahweh versus Baal. See, they have so much knowledge. Their knowledge base is just like, it's really competitive with the Catholic knowledge base. Yeah, there's a lot to think about with all of this. And see, this is the thing. Is it evil? They operate in they're indiscriminatory. That's why we're not supposed to mess with them, because they don't care. Wow, he has a what? Oh. And see, Asherah is also said to be the queen of heaven, but then Mary's said to be the queen of heaven. Do you see what I mean? Do you see how deep all this stuff gets? You have to be really strong in your own faith to be able to explore other faiths like this. But I'm simply wanting the truth. And I don't want somebody saying, don't look at that because I told you not to. Well, if you tell me that, then I definitely want to know why. See, Baal is it's just generic. It's a Semitic common noun, although it could be used more generally. For example, Baal of wings was a winged creature, and in the plural, Baalim of arrows indicated archers. Okay, that's from June 19th, 2023. All right, hold please. Let's see how the cross-referencing works too. How long has this been in the vernacular? Is it, well, from Hebrew, literally owner, master, or lord, a title applied to any deity, including Jehovah, but later a name of the particular Phoenician solar deity from Baal he took possession of. Also, he married, related to or derived from the Akkadian god named Belu. See, and it's just like I said, they just go through these times and they change their names. It's like that's all they do is change their names. Wow, that's crazy. Lot to think about. This is why I don't call God by name either. I say Heavenly Father, Mother, whichever, my heavenly parentals. Let this be a good day. Please bless everybody this day. Wow, this is too much. Okay. So there's a lot to think about here, but we are going to get into diet. Again, I'm not telling you what God to worship, what religion to be. I'm not judging you. I'm not telling you what to eat, what not to eat. I'm not telling you any of those things. I'm doing research for my own self, and you guys are more than welcome to come along with me. But in the same vein, please don't judge me either, because I'm just after the truth, and I don't really like sitting in any school, and being said, this is the truth, because I tell you it's the truth. I want to know that it is the truth. Even, CCD, Catholic school, whatever it is, art history, language, I need, supporting evidence. I know God's real. I see the trees, I see the rain, I see the clouds. This other stuff, I need to know when it existed, how it existed, and why it existed. But that's just me. Anyways, if this interests you, like I said, this was a hodgepodge. I have actual notes that I'm taking on this topic. It's an ongoing thing for me personally. So if it's something you're into, let me know. If not, I will probably migrate this and the saints and mystics and even some of the quantum mechanics stuff over to the striving to be a saint. But like I said, it all plays into like the same yoke. So thank you for your patience. I love you guys. I hope everybody's well. I'm going to try and do a couple regular video uploads. I have a few things I wanted to show you, like I said, in regards to the Book of Essene. It's just taking some time. Life's throwing me some curveballs, more change, but such is life, right? I love you guys. Please pray for me as I pray for you. Always good things. Have a blessed day.